You are scrolling again. Not because you want to, but because the silence was too loud. 3 seconds of stillness. That is all it took. 3 seconds of nothing happening, and your hand moved on its own. Reached for the phone. Reached for the noise. Because somewhere inside you there is a voice that whispers, "If you stop, you will disappear." And you believe it. You have been running for so long that you have forgotten why you started. You have been filling every gap with sound, with motion, with purpose, or what you thought was purpose. But look closer. Feel it. That exhaustion behind your eyes, that fog that never lifts, that strange emptiness that lives beneath your productivity. You did everything right. You set the goals, you followed the morning routines, you optimized, you hustled, and yet, here you are, lying awake at 2 a.m., staring at a ceiling that has no answers, wondering why achievement feels like chasing smoke.
This is not laziness. This is something deeper. This is a soul that has been overfed and undernourished, stuffed with content, starved of silence. You are not broken. You are buried. Under notifications, under obligations, under the constant hum of a world that profits from your restlessness. Every app is designed to steal your attention. Every platform is engineered to keep you hungry. Every message that dings is a small theft of your presence. And you keep paying. You pay with your focus. You pay with your peace. You pay with fragments of a life you never fully live. Because you are never fully here. You are always 1 step ahead, or 3 steps behind, planning, regretting, rehearsing conversations, replaying failures. The mind spins like a machine that cannot be switched off. And you call this normal. You call this productive. You call this life. But is it? When was the last time you sat with nothing? No phone, no book, no podcast filling the void. Just you and the terrifying presence of your own thoughts. Most people cannot do this for 5 minutes. The thought of 24 hours of nothing feels like a death sentence. And perhaps that is exactly the point. Because what you are afraid of is not boredom. You are afraid of meeting yourself. The real self, the one that exists beneath the roles, beneath the ambitions, beneath the carefully constructed identity you present to the world. That self has been waiting, patient, quiet, ignored. And it has something to tell you, but you will never hear it over the noise. You will never see it through the blur of constant motion. The ancient masters understood this. Lao Tzu, Chuangzi, the nameless monks who sat in mountain temples while empires rose and fell. They did not meditate to escape life. They meditated to enter it fully. They knew something we have forgotten, that stillness is not the absence of action. It is the presence of alignment. That doing nothing is not laziness. It is listening to the body, to the breath, to the quiet intelligence that knows what the mind cannot figure out. They called it Wu Wei, effortless action, not forcing, not striving, but moving with the current of life instead of against it. The river does not try to reach the ocean, it simply flows. The tree does not struggle to grow, it simply reaches toward the light. And yet here you are, fighting, pushing, clenching your fists against a world that was never meant to be conquered, only navigated, only experienced, only allowed. The problem is not that you lack discipline. The problem is that you have confused discipline with violence. Violence against the body, violence against rest, violence against the natural rhythms that have been written into your bones since before you were born. You treat your body like a machine to be optimized, but your body is a temple, and temples need silence. They need space. They need offerings of stillness, not punishment, not deprivation, but respect. This is what the old ways understood. Kaizen is not about forcing massive change. It is about small, reverent steps. A 1% shift, a single degree of turning, repeated daily, until one day you look back and realize you have become someone new, not through force, through patience. Mushin is not about emptying the mind through effort. It is about letting go of what was never meant to be held. The grudges, the anxieties, the obsessive replaying of moments you cannot change. A mind cluttered with noise cannot hear the subtle signals, cannot feel the invisible pull toward what is true. Ganbaru is not about grinding until you break. It is about enduring with dignity, with a quiet fire that does not consume. It is perseverance as prayer, not performance. Somewhere along the way, we lost these principles. We replaced wisdom with productivity hacks. We replaced presence with performance. We replaced being with doing. And now we are exhausted by a life we do not even remember choosing.
So here is the question you are not ready to face. What would happen if you stopped? For 1 hour, for 12 hours, for 24 hours. No phone, no screen, no project to complete, no problem to solve, just you and the unbearable weight of stillness. What would rise to the surface? What buried grief would ask to be seen? What forgotten dream would tap you on the shoulder? What truth would whisper from the place you have been running from? This is the most difficult challenge of your life, not because it requires effort, but because it requires surrender. Not because it demands discipline, but because it demands trust. Trust that you are enough without the achievements. Trust that you exist without the validation. Trust that stillness is not death. It is the doorway to life, a life you have been too busy to live. The noise is not your enemy, but it is not your friend. It is a fog that hides the path, and the path is only visible in silence.
The ego will fight this. It will tell you that doing nothing is weakness. It will remind you of all the things left undone, all the emails waiting, all the goals abandoned. It will fill you with anxiety at the thought of stopping, because the ego only exists in motion, in the endless reaching, in the constant comparison, in the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Stillness is the ego's death and the birth of something truer. You are not your thoughts. You are not your achievements. You are not the story you tell yourself about who you are. You are the awareness beneath all of it, the silent witness that has been watching since the beginning.
That witness does not need to be fixed. It does not need to be improved. It simply needs to be remembered. And remembrance happens in stillness, in the gap between one breath and the next, in the pause between one thought and another, in the vast open space that terrifies the modern mind. This is where you will find yourself, not in the noise, not in the doing, but in the being, pure and complete, before the world told you who to become.
The samurai sharpened their swords, but they also practiced tea ceremony. They knew that the blade is useless without the stillness to wield it, that action without awareness is chaos, that movement without presence is violence. The greatest warriors were not the ones who fought the most. They were the ones who knew when not to fight, who could sit in the silence before battle and feel no fear, because they had already made peace with death, with failure, with the unknown. They had sat with nothing, and they were not afraid. Can you say the same? Or does the thought of one day without stimulation make your skin crawl? Does the idea of 24 hours with only your thoughts feel like torture? If so, that is your answer. That is the dragon you must face, not out there, in here, in the quiet, in the nothing. The challenge is simple. Do nothing, for as long as you can bear, then a little longer. Watch what arises. Do not resist it. Do not chase it. Just watch. Like a mountain watches the clouds pass, unmoved, unshaken, present.
This is not a test of strength. It is a test of surrender, of how willing you are to let go of who you thought you were, to meet who you might become. In the silence that follows the noise, there is a you waiting, patient, still, whole. But you will not find that self in another video, another book, another plan. You will find it only when you stop looking, when you let the mind settle like murky water clearing, when you allow the ripples to fade, and finally, see what has always been at the bottom. So here is not an answer. Here is a question. What are you so afraid to hear in the silence? And what would change if you finally listened? The path forward is not more action. It is one act of stopping, one sacred pause, one moment of doing absolutely nothing, and trusting that in the nothing, everything you have been searching for is already here, waiting.